Do you ever feel like you're wasting your life? That every day is an endless stream of nothings and yesterdays, all meaningless as each other, that you're not fulfilling your potential life goals, that you're not taking advantage of the time you have left on the earth? Me too. And honestly, I'm not a fan of going to bed with a huge mountain of guilt on top of my shoulders. And it's not something I want to keep up. It's not something I want to continue doing. I think a lot of this is due to the fact that I'm just coasting along every day without any sort of real focus in life, that I'm just doing whatever seems to come up next rather than focusing on what's the best next step. I'm not really aiming for anything long term, I'm just kind of being. And I don't think that's healthy. And I think this is probably a really common problem. Like, you look to New Year's and January, people set out resolutions and goals of what they want to change about their life, and they've got grand aspirations, but then it's kind of a meme that New Year's resolutions always fall to pieces within a month. And so that just shows you exactly how people don't have their lives under control, about how people want something different out of life, but they never really do it. Of course, there's obviously going to be people who do fulfill their New Year's resolutions, but let's be real, they're few and far between. I'm at a critical point in my life at the moment where I have the option to change everything. I've just finished secondary school, I'm about to move to college, and I'm moving country for that, so everything about my life is changing. From where I live, the people I know, the food I eat, fuck it, yeah, the language I'll be interacting through most days. I'm gonna go from English to Dutch. And so I've got a great opportunity to just change everything. And I think right now is the perfect time for me to change up my life. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. So it might sound like I know exactly what I'm talking about, like I'm some sort of politician at a podium, that I've got everything under control, that I'm speaking to the grand audiences of the country, but no, I'm 18. I'm basically a child. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I am talking out my arse. What I want to do is I want to learn along the way. No one's born knowing everything. Everyone learns. I think from here on out, I only have experience to gain. So why not at least set some goals and see about getting there? I've started viewing my life the same way that political parties view the growth and expansion and running of a country. No political party wants to see a country just coast along doing nothing. Well, most of them don't, at least. All political parties present their goals and ideals for a country in a very easy to read pamphlet or booklet or document or whatever. And it sets out what they want the country to do and how they plan on getting there. You know, in a manifesto. So I think for me to live my life the same way that a political party runs a country, I have to myself write a manifesto for my own life. Not like for the country, but for me. And I think this might be a more intelligent way of looking at resolutions, because I'm laying out plans and goals, and it's adaptable. Unlike resolutions, which are mere pipe dreams that you get hyped up for while drinking some Prosecco or champagne every December 31st, and then you regret immediately. And you forget about them come February 1st, so fuck it. I've decided the things I want to focus on in life are as follows: minimalism, productivity, health, and growth. The ideals of minimalism are very broad and as such can be applied to most things. It's all about being simple and focusing on what's valuable and getting rid of what isn't. And I want to take that thinking and apply it to every single part of the way that I live my life. I want to wedge it into the way that I buy things, the way that I use things, and the way that I create things with a different creative or artistic vision. As you can probably see by the desk beside me, I don't currently live a minimalist life. I have a lot of unneeded stuff here, and what I want to do with minimalism is cut down on what I don't use and spend more time and resources on things that I personally value to make sure that nothing is wasted, because waste is, in my opinion, the worst thing. I hate waste. I hate wasted time, I hate wasted money, I hate everything of that sort. I want to make sure that I'm not wasting anything, and as such I think minimalism is the best ideology for me to follow at all. I was initially set onto this by a couple of YouTubers, mainly a film by Cam, Matt Diavella and Nathaniel Drew, and naturally Marie Kondo. But I've always been a fan of neatness and flow, but I've never really tried to apply it to everything, because having any sort of major focus and major overarching way of thinking it's difficult, because you can't easily apply one way of thinking to every single part of your life, because that requires consciously thinking about everything you do. And so a change like this is quite big and quite meaningful, and I think it might be a bit of a challenge, but if I develop habits, then in the long run, it's not going to be difficult, because it will be part of who I am rather than something that I have to actually strive to do. To fully embrace the minimalist lifestyle, I have to cut down on things that I own. I have to get rid of stuff that I don't really value, such as like an old drone controller that I don't use anymore, or lots of old clothes, anything of the sort. Luckily, I moved country in 6 weeks, so I'll be packing up my entire life into 3 suitcases, so not gonna be much of a challenge there. I'm kind of forced to live the minimalist lifestyle. I just won't buy new things, it's that simple. However, if I want to live a minimalist lifestyle in ways other than not owning stuff, I'm going to have to analyze what I do with my time. And I'm going to have to see what makes me happy and what doesn't. And from that, I'm going to have to, well, spend more time doing things that makes me happy and spend less time doing things that aren't worth it. The ideals of minimalism can also be applied to creative projects in the way that things look. You see simple designs with very little details that are all kind of flat. That's the kind of art style that I strive for, and evidently I haven't reached there, because this video, not minimalist, I can guarantee that. It's something. So we'll just have to wait and see if I manage to get any of this done. This is key. I'm already aware of the fact that not doing something feels like wasting a day, and so I'm perfectly conscious that for me to consider a day to be successful and for me to feel happy, I have to actually do something of value throughout the day. On top of that, I think that adding things worthwhile into the world is possibly the only good use of my time. So for my life to have a meaning, to have a purpose, to have a reason, I have to actually do something of value and add something to the world rather than just taking away. Going back to minimalism, the idea is to cut down on things that don't matter that much and to increase my time budget on things that do matter. And so that's why I'm going to have to cut down on things like Reddit and Civilization, because not the video game. Because they're only sources of short-term happiness, and in the long run, they're really just time sinks that I waste basically an afternoon or a number of hours in pretty frequently on. I need to cut back on that, because it means that I'm not doing things of value, and I'm not going to be happy reflecting on what I've already done. I need to make sure that my time here on Earth is not completely wasted playing video games, because as fun as they are, they're not what I ought to be spending my entire life doing. To make sure no day is wasted, I'm setting goals to make sure that I spend at least 1 hour. I know, not a pretty sizable goal, but I will be in college come September, so I won't have infinite amounts of free time. But I'm setting a goal of spending at least 1 hour per day making something of value, be that editing or taking photographs or filming or electronics. As long as I add something of value to the world, regardless of what it is, the day is not wasted and my time was worthwhile, and that is ultimately all I can hope for. One thing I've always kinda cared about is health. I only say kinda because as much as I think about it absentmindedly in quiet moments, I never really focus on it, and I never put a lot of effort into making sure that I am actually properly healthy. Between the ages of 9 and 15, I was ridiculously unfit. I was so fat and I got out of breath walking up half a flight of stairs. Thankfully, I'm a little healthier now than I was back then, but seeing what I experienced being unhealthy, fat, out of breath, unfit, just so many adjectives I could choose from, it's not really something that I want to experience again. And so I think for me to have a happy and decent lifestyle, I'm going to have to focus on my health. And so that means eating healthily and exercising more. I'm not gonna go join a gym anytime soon because I'm still scared of people, but I'm gonna get up every morning and do at least half an hour workout just to make sure that I start my day off healthy and then I can just forget about doing exercise because I'll be fine. I will be fine. Food-wise, however, that's going to be a different story. I'm going to have to cut down on unhealthy foods like fatty meats and sugar and other fatty foods and increase protein consumption because, well, I have to eat something and it's better if it's healthy food. I've been changing over to soy milk recently and I'll be honest, I haven't really noticed much of a difference between that and regular milk. So that just goes to show that my taste buds not that refined, so changing diet is probably not going to be that difficult. The main reason I'm even doing this in the first place is because I want to make sure that I actually grow up to be a proper, decent human being. To do that, I have to learn. And for me to learn, I have to look at other people's experiences and make note of them. When we're in school, we learn very differently from the way that we learn street knowledge, as some people call it. Because no one takes a book and takes note of what they see around them. No one writes down the experiences that other people let them know about. Like no one listens to an old wise man on the street and goes, you know what, I need to make flashcards of that. And as a result, we often tend to forget the things that we view as being wise nuggets of information that we ought to learn from. And so because of that, I think I should probably start. I should start actually studying real life rather than just the semi-abstract knowledge that I've taught myself to revise in school for the past 12 years. And so as a result of that, I'm going to be taking a notebook and I'm going to be writing down every single piece of useful information that doesn't come from academia. So any sort of piece of advice that I get from the internet or from friends or older people, anything that's useful, I'm going to write it down. I'm going to make sure that I have a collection of this knowledge because ultimately the best way to grow is to learn, and the best way to learn, for me at least, is to write things down. Really, I could do this without writing things down, but the notebook is basically an attempt to make me grow up faster. While I'm sure I'd be fine without it, I don't want to be a fumbling idiot by the age of 25. I want to have some baseline of knowledge that I don't want to forget things, basically. I think forgetting things is a little bit of a scary concept, which is why one of my biggest fears is getting Alzheimer's. That's a story for another day. Regardless, I don't like forgetting things, so I think writing things down in a notebook is the best option for me. For any of this to be successful, I need a good way of following through with it. And the ways that I'm going to do that is I'm going to try and make everything that I've committed to as easy as possible. Because as proactive as I may seem in this video, I am abhorrently lazy. The slightest hurdle will make me stop doing something entirely. And so the only way to encourage me to do something is to make sure that it is not that far out of my way to do it. That could be like making sure my bike is in an easy to access location so that I can quickly go on a cycle when I wake up, put my running shoes and shorts near each other so that I can quickly get dressed and then go for a run. You know, the usual things to make sure that there are as few bumps along the way to encourage me to actually be healthy, proactive, productive, etc. Another important factor of following through this is data tracking, because the only way that I can improve is to reflect, and the only way that I can reflect is to gather data and see exactly what I'm doing. So that involves counting every minute of my life, making sure that every minute involves me doing something. Well, obviously I'll be doing something unless I'm dead, but regardless, making sure I can attach values to everything that I do. I'm a big fan of the idea of the quantifiable self, in that you can quantify yourself through numbers, and because numbers are objective, you can then evaluate yourself, your own lifestyle, much more easily. And you can actually get beneficial outcomes as a result, because, you know, you can just see, up, those numbers are low, let's increase those, or let's decrease those, etc., you know? And so I'll be tracking all of the food I eat, though I've been doing that since the start of the year. I'll be tracking all of my activity with my Fitbit. I'll be tracking every minute of my life. I'll be tracking as much as possible, and I will almost certainly start bullet journaling as well to make sure that I have a more personal and less numbers focused reflection of my life, just because there's no harm in having too much data. Wow, I sound like Google. I can kind of see why they do it now. So data tracking and making sure that everything has a nice flow to it are probably the two best methods I have for making sure I stick to my goals. So much like a real manifesto, this isn't a holy gospel or all-knowing reference point that I have to refer back to make every single decision in my life. This is only a starting off point, and it would be foolish of me to say that as an 18-year-old, I can plan every single thing that will happen in my life. As I said earlier, I know nothing. I'm completely lost, and all of this is a learning experience. And so for this to have any sort of success, I'll have to learn from my mistakes and keep revising my ideals, my ideas, my goals, aspirations, etc. And so I think maybe writing one of these every 6 months or so is possibly the best way of doing this, because much like an actual political manifesto, times change, unforeseen things pop up, and it's best to keep on top of this before you get overwhelmed with minor problems that turn into grander, larger, more difficult problems. And so I guess I'll see you in 6 months, probably around New Year's. Damn, I said I was trying to avoid New Year's, but whatever. I guess that's just the way it works.